11. And we are racing in Las Vegas, and we take a look at the Las Vegas hills, and the sun is not shining as it normally does. But Audi have been dominating the last few rounds. Can they win here again in Las Vegas? Well, Panos are very close in behind them. Front row of the grid, though, is Alan McNish and Frank Biela. It's all about Audi front row, but very close in behind is the Panos and the BMW snapping at their heel in with the Drivers' Championship. Then Mimos Gietta in the Lola is the fastest non-factory car. Get a look at Guy Smith there running well in the Reynard. Just on the same row as second of the works BMWs as we look a little bit. Second of the works BMWs as we look a little bit further down the field. I can tell you the fastest in the GTS is Beretta Wendlinger and the Dodge Viper, as we've come to expect. But I tell you what, they're being challenged very, very closely by the entry from Carsport Holland. Tom Coronel putting that car second in the class. Also look out for Justin Bell in the Corvette, setting the fastest time for that mark. And a little bit further down in the GT class, fastest driver is champions this year, Dick Barber Racing. Lucas Luhr and Jörg Müller. Excuse me, Jörg Müller. I think he's driving a prototype BMW. We go on board with Boris Said. I'll get it right in a minute. Boris Said in the BMW Prototype Technology Group, BMW, as we look at the dark skies over Las Vegas. Lucas Luhr here, pole sitter in the GT, and it looks like the GT class, of which we've got a lot of action we're going to be expecting in the GT runners, that it's all going to be about front-running Porsches. The BMW's just a little bit off the pace in Las Vegas. About 2 hours and 45 minutes of racing from Las Vegas. The penultimate round of the ALMS series, all to fight for in the Drivers' Championship in the prototypes. Scotsman Alan McNish really has been the class with his teammate Ronaldo Capello. He could clinch the Drivers' Championship here before they go to the final round in Adelaide on New Year's Eve. But that he looks likely favorite to do that. But I tell you, the Panos team is very, very close in behind. We go on board now with the BMW prototype, and again, it's dark skies here in Vegas. And they actually had rain, pretty unusual for this time of year. But there was rain in first qualifying, and we nearly had a GTS car on pole position. The Ron Fellows Andy Pilgrim car, as we take a look at the Drivers' Point Championship for prototypes, but nearly had the GTS Corvette on pole as it had dry qualifying and the prototypes had wet. Only in the last 15 minutes of prototype qualifying did they manage to get to the front. So, talking about the weather, I tell you what, if it rains here, there is going to be a lot of changes going on. And that really, really could throw a cat amongst the pigeons. Not only amongst those front-running Audis and Panos, the BMWs will have a better chance, but look out for action in the GTs and GTSs as we go to the start of the race. And the wide start line here at Vegas. They come around through the start-finish line using the lower section of the banking, very, very tight into turn number 1 and number 2, down into second gear. We see the BMW running wide, gets back on the track. Then they'll accelerate around on what is the pit exit lane here, normally for the super speedway, so a fast but flat section of the track, really accelerating, and you'll see them bouncing up onto the banking and then down off again as they come into turn number 5. Very, very tight left-hander, very difficult as they squeeze through, as we see one of the BMWs tucked in behind the Panos. Now they go into the infield sections, turns 6 and 7, third and fourth gear stuff, and they really are all over the place. And it looks like we've got a close battle at the front, coming now through turn number 9, short straight long here, right up against the pit wall. Then they go through turn number 10, tricky section of the track. This is they're braking and turning into that corner, then tight turn number 11, all the way down to first gear, then big acceleration. You'll see them fly up onto the banking here, all the way round, fastest section of the track, up to 190 miles an hour for the prototype cars. And it looks like we do have a Panos that's got away in the lead, as you can see there. Well, it was all bump and banging at the start. At the Audis on the front row, we saw Frank Biela, who's starting in that Number 78, Audi looking like he got a little bit of wheel spin. Great start for Jan Magnussen as he's jumped up in to take the lead position. Audis and BMWs just fighting over track position, and that gives Jan Magnussen a chance to get away. Well, if you look at the record books and you'll see that Audi have won all of the last few races, you would think that Audi have just been dominating. Well, in a sense, they have been really the fastest team and the fastest drivers, pairing, car combination, whatever you want to call it, out on the championship. But Panos have been really nipping at their heels. They were so fast at Laguna Seca, actually led the last round of the championship until they had engine problems. And here we're seeing it again. Very close in qualifying as we join Frank Biela as he stays down low on what they call the apron here on the super speedway, not using the full part of the banking. Then he jumps up onto the banking momentarily before coming down into turns number 1 and 2. Second gear, third gear, then back out. Driver can decide really on the whether he wants to climb up onto the banking at certain sections of the track or stay down low. Back out onto the flat, back straight now, down into turn number 5. Second gear, tight left-hander here. Then they start to get into the real driver's section of the track, turn number 6. Third gear, then faster into turn number 5. Quick flick to the right. Excuse me, turn number 7 up into fourth gear. On the brakes now, down into second gear for turn number 8. Then turn number 9 like a double corner that. Squeezing the power on third, 450 miles an hour on the approach to turn number 10 for the prototype cars. Braking and changing down a gear as they go into turn number 11. Tricky corner that. As we look at the leader, which is Jan Magnussen, and he really is getting a good break. And after 3 laps, Panos, can they do it this time? Came so close at Laguna Seca. Well, we also go on board with Lucas Luhr in the number 5 Dick Barber Porsche leading GT car. And now traffic is really going to play a part as the race progresses on, right in the opening parts of the race here. And there has been a lot of problems with traffic in the last few races. We saw that very much so at Laguna Seca, as we see a Corvette and Viper battling it out here. Now we see the Corvette just trying to squeeze around the outside. Now this is the close battle. Every time Corvette have entered this championship, they've won 2 races out of the last 3 that they entered. So even though the Oreca Viper has been the dominating car in GTS, as we take a look at the Las Vegas skyline. Oh, and that is Alan McNish. Scotsman Alan McNish challenging. He was closing down on the leader, Jan Magnussen. He challenges him, going through what looks like turn number 13. Well, if you believe in that, well, in Las Vegas, it's all about numbers. Turn 13, unlucky for some, unlucky for Alan McNish. Now, he really only needs to finish inside the top 8 to clinch the Drivers' Championship. But having the fastest car, really, no doubt that Alan McNish does not want to drive for points, as we saw there, challenging Jan Magnussen. A little bit of damage. Looks like he got cleanly by, to be fair. And he just comes off the banking, back on it again, as we see, and then he's just defending his position after overtaking. Well, no doubt about that. It looked like McNish got by cleanly and then was defending almost immediately. So Alan McNish, leading the Drivers' Championship, gets into trouble. Join us after the break for more early action from Las Vegas. Well, welcome back. You are looking at live pictures of the Las Vegas Grand Prix American Le Mans Series, as we take a look here at more action. Spin here from number 3 prototype machine. But that's not what the big story is about. Alan McNish spun his car earlier on, didn't seem to give him any problems, as we are on lap number 28. You have fully live pictures now. Panos led the race early on. McNish got by. Clean move on Jan Magnussen, but then Jan Magnussen just gave him a little tap up the back as McNish was defending his position going off the banking. But now it's all back to situation normal, really, and the Audi is leading. So it is number 77 Audi, driven there by the Scotsman Alan McNish. Second place is the number 42 BMW, and that is where they want to be, there or thereabouts, to keep their challenge going for the Drivers' Championship. I'll remind you that Alan McNish leads this Drivers' Championship, but BMW still have a chance. Jörg Muller and JJ Leto, if they can keep in behind. Well, if McNish wins, he wins the Drivers' Championship, but they really want to be there, BMW, challenging closely. And right now, considering overall pace, it looks like Panos really should be the car behind Audi. But BMW have really managed, especially the Leto Muller car, really have managed to eke the last little bit of speed out of their BMW to stay on terms as much as possible in the last few rounds with Audi, as the Panos flies round the outside of the GTS Corvette and round the outside of the Corvette and then up the inside of the number 42 BMW. That was a fantastic piece of driving there by Jan Magnussen. Got the draft or the slipstream on the GTS Corvette, used that slipstream to his advantage to really slingshot by the number 42 BMW driven by JJ Leto. And I tell you what, how many people fly by JJ Leto like that? Fastest of the 4 drivers really in qualifying, getting that BMW closer to the pace of the Audis or Panos than any of his teammates. We look at this again. You see Magnussen on the banking on the outside, gets a draft in behind the Corvette. GTS car running slower, uses that slingshot, thinking about going around the outside, then absolutely stuffs it up the inside. And I really don't think that JJ Leto expected that car to be coming by there. As we look at JJ Leto now turning into turn number 10 and 11. Fast right-hander followed by a very tight left-hander here. Then as they accelerate out, as we see, Alan McNish is leading this race. But I tell you what, 2 hours and 45 minutes of racing around here. Absolutely anything can happen. Now, as we've seen, if you've been watching any of the American Le Mans Series races, that this is a regular occurrence. Faster prototype cars really having to stay behind GT or GTS cars, getting held up. It's part of sports car racing, part of multi-class racing. And in many ways, it's frustrating for the drivers, but great for us, the spectators, because it really does throw an extra dimension into the whole racing program, in that the prototype, it's not just about who can drive the car the fastest over the length of the race with their teammate and of course stay reliable. They have to be good in traffic, and all the drivers have been talking about that. They need to be aggressive in traffic but not stupid. I think that was a quote coming from Alan McNish. They need to really be positive as they're trying to overtake the slower cars, but it only makes a slight error in judgment, or takes a slight error in judgment, either on the prototype drivers or on the GT or GTS drivers, which have a difficult job. And all of a sudden we have a new race on our hands if somebody comes together with somebody else. Now this man we're looking at really has been the class of the American Le Mans Series, with his ably supported, it must be said, by Ronaldo Capello, who is right there on pace with Alan McNish in the Audi. But McNish has a slight advantage in the drivers' standings, and really, it must be said, has been the fastest of the 4 of the Audi pilots on a regular basis. Here we are, the prototype BMW coming up on another German mark, the GT Porsche, and we can see through the twisty sections of the track here, really getting very close. Squeezes up the inside there going into turn number 10. Tight now into turn number 11, right the way down to first gear, then accelerating out onto the banking. Maybe we'll stay with the BMW as they go onto the banking. No, we don't. We take a wide shot of the Audi still leading this race. So it is in second place now. It is the number 1. Panos giving chase. We've got another car spun off there on the outside. Not too sure which one that is. Well, Jan Magnussen, let's have a look and see what kind of lap times they're producing. Is the Panos getting on terms with the Audi? I can tell you, fastest lap so far of the leading Audi is a 1 minute 8.2. Fastest lap of that Panos, 1 minute 8.7. So half a second in, the fastest of the laps by the 2 front-running cars. But half a second is a long time if you add that up over a whole race. But they are never, ever going to be able to really get consistent, clear laps. So it's, even though the Audi might be quicker, if it gets a little bit of difficulty with traffic, the Panos will be ready to pounce. And of course the BMW and the other Audis, but right now it is the leading Audi of McNish that is leading this race. On board now with Frank Biela and the number 78 Audi. Well, let's give you a little bit of information about the GTS and the GTS classes. Oh, and we can see that Frank Biela really battling through the traffic to try and get on terms with that BMW. Oh, we've seen it already. Only 35 odd laps into this race, and already we've got drivers waving fists. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Ronaldo Capello, Jean-Marc Gounon, David Donahue, 3 drivers who were fined thousands of dollars for making contact after Laguna Seca. So the organizers really clamping down on the faster drivers, really pushing their way through on some of the slower traffic. And if there is unnecessary contact and they deem that the driver was at fault, they have been fining and penalizing these drivers and putting them on a suspension. So, oh, what do we look at that? Frank Biela trying to squeeze by the number 42 BMW, driven right now by JJ Leto. So a great battle we're looking at here in prototype. And this is the battle for third place. Right now, McNish leads in the number 77 Audi. He's being chased by the number 1 Panos, driven by Jan Magnussen. Well, let's give you a little bit of information on GTS. Right now, it is being led by the Oreca Viper. That's the number 91 car, driven by Olivier Barretta and Carl Wendlinger. And in the traditional second place, it seems Tommy Archer and David Donahue, who are also in, of course, the Oreca Viper, and they have dominated this championship in GTS. But they are being challenged closely by Corvette. And interestingly, the Car Sport Holland team in another Chrysler Viper, who were very quick in qualifying and in the pre-race warm-up. So right now it's the 2 Oreca Vipers in third place in GTS. It is the Chevy Corvette C5R in third spot. And the second of the 2 Corvettes, currently running in fourth in GTS. GT battle right now. Porsche is leading. 1 and 2, Dick Barber Racing. So right now, positions in GT Archer to bring you up to date. Sasha Maston and Bob Wallach in the Dick Barber Racing Porsche 911 GT3R. Well, after 37 laps of racing here at the American Le Mans Series in Las Vegas, Alan McNish leads. Good prototype battle in behind. He's being chased by the Panos, and this pair here, JJ Leto in the number 42 BMW and German Frank Biela in the second of the two Audis. They close down through turns number 10 and 11. We see the problems of traffic. The BMW squeezes by a Viper. And they are battling hard. Right now, though, it all seems to be about Alan McNish. Last lap time for him was 109.88. Second place driver, 110.3. So right now, Alan McNish seems to have the measure of the second place Brabham when they get clear laps. And he is the fastest man on the racing circuit. Well, I stand corrected, because just in the last lap, Jan Magnussen set a faster lap time than Alan McNish. So there we are. We can see it's gonna get closer and closer. Second of the two Panos, the number 2 car there, also setting competitive lap times in comparison with the leader. Well, you can see we've got dark skies here in Las Vegas, not what you expect in this part of the world. And we had a wet qualifying session for the first of the 2 official qualifying sessions. And as I mentioned earlier, we nearly had the Ron Fellows Andy Pilgrim GTS Corvette on pole position overall, because the prototype cars had wet qualifying and the GTS cars had it dry. But just in the last few minutes of the second qualifying session, they had enough dry laps to get the prototype cars to the front. But the forecast is for the weather to possibly change, and we can see the skies look a little bit dark, and I tell you, that is really going to make things very, very interesting indeed. So 2 things to think about throughout the length of this race is the possible change in weather and the fact that the traffic problems with the GT and the GTS cars is always going to be a problem for the front-running prototype drivers. It's an ongoing problem in the ALMS series, but it certainly adds another dimension and makes it interesting. Well, we see the number 4 GTS car. That is the Corvette. Incidentally, British interest in that car. Fastest time in qualifying for that car was set by the British driver Justin Bell. So that's a very, very quick Corvette with a British driver, sharing with the 2 Americans, Collins and Neifel, currently running 3rd in GTS behind the 2 Oreca Vipers. As we go on board with a hard-working Porsche GT. Remember, Alan McNish needs to finish 1st or 2nd in this race to clinch the Drivers' Championship. McNish, of course, moving over to take up his duties with Toyota in the Formula One series next year. Well, not actually in the Formula One Championship. Toyota preparing throughout 2001. Oh, look at this. Now that is Alan McNish actually waving the Panos through. Now, what kind of problem does Alan McNish have? It must be a fairly serious one if he's letting that Panos go by, or is he? Waving vigorously out of the cockpit there. Jan Magnussen closed down the Audi much, much quicker than we expected. Last lap time for Alan McNish was a 1 minute and 12. As we go on board with the number 7 GT BMW, driven by Boris Said and Hans Stuck. But the interest is, of course, at the front here. We see Magnussen in behind a GT Porsche. Oh, just... Oh, yeah, well, more fist waving going on. And that actually is the number 2 Panos. So that's the car currently being driven by Johnny O'Connell. And coming into the pit lane, is the Panos. Now we'll try and bring you information from the pits. I'm sorry if we can't always or can never give you some of the pit lane interviews that I know you'd like to hear, but we have difficulty sometimes, I'm afraid, and we'd love to bring you that information. We'll do our best to do that. If the information's coming through, technical difficulties may prevent us from doing so. As we take a look at Jan Magnussen in the pit lane. So that, of course, is going to drop him down. Well, we saw Alan McNish waving the Panos through. And we see the Panos coming to pit lane, and there we are, a hole punched in the front end of that machine. That could be debris on the circuit. And now we see the number 1 Panos going back out into racing competition. And after 43 laps of racing, it is still all about Audi at the front. Panos having a little bit of difficulty. They were so quick at Laguna Seca. They led the race. It looked like they had the measure of Audi until they had engine problems. They had a broken exhaust, which dropped them out of the lead. And really an awesome drive repairing David Brabham and Jan Magnussen. And they really, really do want to try and get another win in the last 2 rounds of this series. The only win for them coming at one of the 2 European events here in the American Le Mans Series, where the American Le Mans Series became the European Le Mans Series for a couple of rounds. One at Silverstone and one at the Nürburgring in the very, very wet weather, and that was won by Jan Magnussen and David Brabham. And they'd like to repeat that, of course, here in Vegas. Well, is it me, or are those skies getting just a little bit darker? Now, after those pit stops, jumping up into 2nd place, it is the number 42 BMW of JJ Leto. And Jörg Müller, Stabila Piro, Audi into 3rd place as Panos drop out of the top 3. Well, as I said to you before, there's some interest coming in the GTS class. Not only the challenge to the Oreca Vipers from the 2 very, very strong Corvettes, who will give those Oreca Vipers absolutely no rest whatsoever. But also we have the Team Car Sport Holland, which normally races in the Sports Car Racing World Cup Series. That's being driven by Harold Hesmans, the Dutch driver, along with Tom Coronel, who put that car, qualified that car very, very well. 2nd place in GTS, fastest actually in the pre-race warm-up. So look for that car to challenge. This is American Le Mans Series racing from Las Vegas, as we see there one of the Audis, the German driver Frank Biela, going into the pit laning. It's very, very dark in Vegas. The skies are looming. Are we going to have rain? That is the number 91 leading GTS car, driven by Olivier Beretta and Carl Wendlinger. 78, 3rd place, Audi coming in for pit service. Smoke pouring off the brakes of that Viper. Very, very tight here. A fantastic facility here in Las Vegas, but as Biela tucks the nose of his car in behind that Viper. He needs a pushback, well, even though it's a very, very wide, very accommodating pit lane. He needed to be shoved backwards before he could go forwards, as we see the number 91 Viper going back out into the race. Carl Wendlinger at the wheel. And here we have a brace of Corvettes in the pit lane, on board with the number 3 car, looking at the number 4 machine. And BMW prototype, so much action in the pits now. Number 42 car, JJ Leto at the wheel, handing over that machine later to Jörg Muller. Both of those drivers mathematically still have a chance for the Drivers' Championship. Although you'd have to be a pretty serious betting man to put your money on them against the might of McNish and the Audis. But this is Las Vegas after all, and they like a bet around here. I'll tell you what, you want a long shot? That car to take the win should it rain. I'm not putting my money on it, but you might want to. Tell you what, it really is a throw of the dice with the traffic out there, and if these weather conditions change. Absolutely nothing is settled until the last possible moment, until the last lap. As we see at number 43, BMW trying to get up the inside of 2. Porsche squeezes by 1. Again, that section between turns 9 and 10, where they go through a very, very twisty section of the track, through turns 6, 7, 8, and 9, where the prototype cars really, really catch up the GTs and the GTSs. They can't get by, so they're very frustrated for a few corners. Then straight, we just saw the end of it there between turns 9 and 10. Oh, and that is that the Alex Job racing entry? Number 23, it is Bruno Lambert and Randy Popes, winners twice this year, with some pretty serious damage to the back of their Alex Job racing entry, the Porsche 911 GT3R. And it looks like we have a driver change. Yes, we do, in the number 43 BMW. Jean-Marc Gounon hands over to the American driver, Bill Auberline. And we have even more damage. I told you things weren't gonna be a cruise for the Audis. There's just so much action out on track. Such close running amongst all of the cars. Maybe not in terms of pure pace and lap times. The Audis do seem to be the fastest car when they can get clear running. They just can't get enough clear laps to utilize their advantage. And it comes down to driver skill in terms of negotiating the traffic. A lot of skill and a lot of luck. So a driver who can keep his head, be aggressive without being silly, can really, really take advantage over a faster car and faster driver if he works the traffic better. Now McNish, of course, is able to do all of those things. He's as fast as anybody out on the track, has as good a racing brain as anybody out there, perhaps the best, but he needs a bit of luck. And maybe that not going his way, because the Panos is now going into the lead of this race. There we are, second place now. After 48 laps of racing is that Audi. Now he's got his work cut out again to chase down. And Magnussen still pedaling that Panos. He's got to negotiate all the traffic and squeeze by into the lead again. As he goes by the number 5 Porsche. Which is currently running second place in GT. Sister car to the 51, which is leading. Well, excuse me, the graphic saying there that Alan McNish leads as we look at the Panos. Well, race starting to settle down just a little bit. But it won't take long for action to hot up again. Lap number 49. Audi going around the outside of a GT car yet again. Through the midfield section of the track, and we see the BMW trying to squeeze up the inside as well. Again, so often, turn number 9. Down the short straight now, the two BMW prototypes right together into turn number 10. They turn right through there, braking as they change down a gear. Tight left-hander through turn number 11, then accelerating away. If we can stay on board, up to third, up to fourth, up to fifth gear, staying on the flat section of the track, or momentarily going up onto the banking. Really not using the full benefit of the banking on the track. The track not designed that way for this type of racing, designed to keep them down on the inside through turns number 1 and 2, through turn number 3, now on the very fast but flat section on the inside of the speedway track, down along the back, really smoking along now, getting up to full speed. Then hard on the brakes through turn number 5. Second gear, then accelerating away up into third gear. They have the turn number 6, left-hander, third gear here. Watch them catch up the Porsche. Right-hander, fourth gear, turn number 7, diving up the inside as they break into turn number 8. Turn number 8 immediately, turn number 9. Third gear now, accelerating, scrabbling for grip. Straight section here before turn number 10 again. Well, this is the number 2 Panos. And it looks like we have a driver change. So Johnny O'Connell handing over to the Japanese driver Hiroki Keto. And the number 92 Viper having a driver change. Also Tommy Archer, the veteran American driver, leading the two drivers out at the start of this race, handing over now to the younger driver, David Donahue. Son, of course, of the late, great Mark Donahue. A true racing legend. David Donahue really finding his feet and making a solid career in sports car racing. Well, once the fuel's gone in, pit crew can get to work changing those tires. Now, notice the German flag on that helmet. That is Frank Biela. And the number 78 Audi. Well, we're on board with the prototype BMW, chasing a prototype BMW at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for American Le Mans Series action as they dive into the infield section through turns number 1 and 2. Back out through turn 3, long left-hander. It's 52 laps of racing here at Las Vegas. We've completed 2 hours and 45 minutes. The length of the ALMS races. And don't go anywhere, because you never know what's going to happen. Currently, right now, it is a Panos leading. Driven by Jan Magnussen and David Brabham. They're being chased hard by the Audi. Number 77 in second place. That is our 4th place car. The number 78 Audi, driven by Frank Biela, who will be later handing over to the Italian driver Emanuele Pirro. Well, taking over from Alan McNish will be Ronaldo Capello. Only a couple of points behind McNish in the Drivers' Championship.
Some problem this morning, leaving the pit after driver change. I think the problem comes from the clutch. We changed the clutch because since yesterday we did always a very good start, but since this morning we got some more problem, and we thought that it was just a driver mistake during the warm-up. It was too early this morning. Probably we were still sleeping, but it seems to be a real real problem. And then when I will get the car from Alan, I have to be very careful to leave the pit lane.
Yeah, those valuable seconds there, Derek. But what they try to do, these clutches, they're very small. They don't have much inertia. Unless you spin them out, there's a tendency for them to stall.
Thanks, Calvin. Len, not only have you supported the on-track activities of this sports car, but I know that you also support a young American driver, Paul Edwards, who had a great run at Magny Cours in the Palmer Audi car just for the last race.
Yeah, we've been support. Paul's had a bit of an indifferent season, but it's all part of our strategies to really try and get an American into Formula One, to be honest. And Paul's sort of, coming up. He had a good start last year, won the Winter Series, come through again, and it's great to see him fighting again.
Yeah, Paul Edwards struggled a bit in England where they all know the racetrack, but when they took him to France, to Magny Cours, he ran second and had his best race of the year. So Paul Edwards, what a climb to enter the Formula One. Meanwhile, let's play the numbers in Jersey.
Okay, folks, well, we had you could hear some sound from pit lane. I apologize if it's not as consistent as we'd like, but you could hear the Italian accent there of Ronaldo Capello in the 77 Audi car. Well, not actually in it, but it will be taking over from Alan McNish, talking about clutch problems that they have with that car. And as the pit interviewer was commenting, very small clutches on these racing machines, very, very difficult to use.
And the number one car, they've done a super job. We got close to him this time, and on that restart, they let me know Jan was behind me, so we let him go and have at it. So hopefully he'll be able to run hard enough to bring it home.
Well, guys, Johnny O'Connell's still in 6th place. Don't count him out of it yet.
It was lap 8 that Johnny O'Connell was hit by Mimo Schiatarella. Len, as we watch the success of Audi and the commercials you now run, has it energized your company? Has it energized people to...
Well, again, I can apologize here on Eurosport for the fact that we cannot get consistent information from the pit lane, but that was a little interview there with Johnny O'Connell, who's obviously had some problems out on track, coming together with another machine, and he is now handed that car over to Hiroki Kato, and commenting there that it was the number one machine, the Magnussen Brabham car, that seemed to have the ultimate pace, and they were just letting them get on with it, and they are leading this race. But again, don't count them out of it, as our American compatriots commented, because if the Panos is running strong, and as I keep harping on about, if the weather conditions change or the front runners run into traffic problems, Johnny O'Connell and Hiroki Kato could be there to take advantage of some places. And we're looking at the 08 GTS Rook Motorsport North America Porsche 911 Turbo. That was the GTS Porsche. Vic Rice and Zach Brown, two American drivers at the wheel of that machine. After 56 laps, as you can see, it's Panos that lead this race, much against the form book. And right now, the lap times at the front are all over the place for the front-running drivers. Drivers leading this race running 2 or 3 seconds slower than cars behind in traffic. But after 56 laps of racing, Panos lead. GTS, it's all about Oreca Viper, Beretta Wendlinger. David Donahue in the number 92 machine. Second place in GTS. And then it is that Rook Porsche. That is third in GTS right now. Leading GT car, Sasha Masson, Bob Wallach machine. Porsche 911 GT3R running in the lead of GT. Well, as we go on board with the Porsche, And it's great when we get these onboard shots of the GT cars. This is the number 5 machine. And you can see it really is a whole different ball game driving one of these big, heavy GT cars in comparison to the much, much more nimble prototype machines. Literally just see they're sat up higher in the air. Of course, the weight not as low slung. One of the many, many differences between a GT and a prototype car, and the driver having to work very, very hard in a different way than the drivers of these prototype cars. Oh, and look at these two BMWs again running very, very close to each other and stuck in behind the Corvette. As they come around turn number 13, they go up momentarily on the infield section, then onto the banking. Now the number 92 Viper. We get an onboard view. And we see that GTS car just flying around the outside of one of the prototype technology BMW M3s. Now those BMW M3s have challenged in GT this year, winning at least 2 times, but it seems that this power circuit more suited to the Porsche. And right now, Las Vegas GT class is all about Porsche at the front. Well, there's our leading panos. But there is not much in it. Anything could happen. Well, just short of 60 laps, Jan Magnussen is running strong at the front of the field here. Leading overall, looking for his 2nd win in the championship. Been a long time since they've taken the win, way back at the Nürburgring when him and David Brabham mastered the treacherous conditions to take victory at the Nürburgring. There we are, we see an outside shot of the Viper going by the BMW, GTS Viper going by the BMW, and we see the number 7 BMW driver, Boris Said, working hard behind the wheel of that GT machine. You can see no sequential shift for him, having to actually put it in gear and everything. Now we see it's the front, panos, Audi, BMW. And this is the Audi of Frank Biela, yet to hand over to Emanuele Pirro. And this threatening rain may never come, but if it does, as we see the dashboard lights on the Audi signifying the gear change points. And helping Frank Biela to make his gear shifts as he runs now in 4th place for Audi. 2nd of the 2 Audis. McNish running in 2nd place. Well, Alan McNish, Ronaldo Capello only really need to stay where they are, and McNish will take the driver's title. Brabham and Magnussen absolutely not in the battle for the driver's championship, and Audi have already clinched the manufacturer's title. But of course, Alan McNish wants to win outright. There's no question Ronaldo Capello would like to take another win also. But arguably the drivers who are the most motivated for outright victory are the drivers of that panos right there. They have worked so hard to keep on the pace of the Audis, which at times it has seemed like it's been a losing battle, and the Audis have just been so dominant. And with the number of wins they've taken, you would think that's absolutely the case. But I tell you, the panos have been close in behind. BMW are still there with a chance with the Drivers' Championship should things go wrong. JJ Leto and Jörg Muller running in 2nd place right now. That's not good enough for the driver's title. Excuse me, running in third place, not good enough for the driver's title. If they stay there, McNish stays where he is, that's the driver's battle over. We look at the Mimo Schiattarella Didier de Rodriguez machine. That's the Olive Garden Lola B2K Raffinelli powered, Raffinelli engineered. Looks like it's got some problems, and it was actually that car we had a report of earlier that came together with the number 2 panels when it was driven by Johnny O'Connell before he handed over to Hiroki Kato. So they had a little bit of a coming together away from our television pictures. And after the fuel, as we see, they have to wait for the fuel to go on board before they can actually get to work on the machine and change tires. And that really has been the fastest of the non-factory prototypes, but it's really challenged here at Vegas in terms of qualifying. And again, some British interest for the Johansson Matthews Racing Reynard 2KQ number 36 car, being driven by ex-Formula 1 driver Stefan Johansson and Guy Smith, English driver, who challenged in qualifying and really taken over nearly the mantle of the fastest of the non-factory machines. And right now, not as quick as they want to be, but certainly running at a good pace. In 7th position overall, Guy Smith and Stefan Johansson in that Reynard. As we look at this number 1 Panos, lap times at the front of this race are very close. Last lap time by the front running, the number 1 Panos was a 1 minute 11.6. The second place Audi, 1 minute 11.2. Third place BMW, 1 minute 11.1. Fastest lap of the bunch running at the front, Frank Biela in the second of the 2 Audis, 1 minute 10.4. Second of the 2 BMWs, 1 minute 11.2. So very, very close, consistent lap times at the front. And even though, as I said before, the Audi seems to be the fastest when it's on its own, overall, with traffic, and there you go, that just proves the point. Fastest lap time on the last lap, nearly 2 seconds quicker than anything else on the track. Well, again, just snippets of information there, folks, from the pit lane crew as we saw David Brabham, who will be taking over from Jan Magnussen in the leading Panos, looking pretty happy that that car is running in the front, as you can expect. And could just hear, I'm afraid, I can only apologize again for the fact we cannot get the pit lane interviews consistently, but as soon as we hear anything happening and we can get that information, we'll try and bring it to you, and I'll do my best to shut up when we get any information from the pits. I know you'd probably like me to shut up anyway, but when we get the information from the pits, we'll do our best to bring you everything we can. And it would really be great to see Brabham and Magnussen take this win. Long, long way to go, though. But they do seem like they're on the pace. For goodness sake, they look so strong. They had a bit of bad luck there. Fortunes go their way. One hour and 22 minutes of racing gone. At Laguna Seca, I don't think so, in Las Vegas. And it is Panos leading. Oh, that's the number 13 machine. Looks like I think we had that off the track earlier. That's the Nighthawk Racing Lola B2K40. You look at Ronaldo Capello getting ready to take over from Alan McNish. That was the number 13 Lola, driven by Mel Hawkins from Houston, Texas, and Steve Knight from Denver, Colorado, running into a little bit of trouble. Well, we can see the Panos is leading. Afraid to tell you, my computer screen with race information has gone completely up the spout, and I now have JJ Leto and Jörg Muller in positions 2 through to 32nd. So I don't think that's exactly true. They seem to be driving 32 different cars right now, according to the computer graphic I have. So I only apologize for that, but we look at the Panos leading the race, and you can see from the graphic in the top left what the positions are. We're going to go for a commercial break here. We'll bring you all the action from Vegas. Stick with us for the remainder of the race. Back live at Las Vegas after 68 laps of racing. We see the second placed Audi, number 77, driven by Alan McNish, squeezes by yet again in traffic. A GT machine as it is chasing down the leading Panos. Oh, we get a great shot there. That coming up on a slower car. Was that the number 7? No, that was the... I'm afraid from the back end of that, I couldn't see if that was an Audi or a Panos, I'm afraid. I do apologize. But one of our two front cars had a major problem. And going off on the outside just momentarily of turns in the turn 1-2 complex. And here we are. I think it was a Panos. Just coming up on a slower of the one of the yeah. Was it? Oh, I can't tell. Yeah, I think it was the Panos, our leading Panos. Well, we'll just have to wait and see on the screen. I'm afraid my computer screen, which gives lap information, has gone completely up the spout. So no, I'm just going to have to rely on pictures like you to give you all the information I can on what's going on in Las Vegas. As we see a very, very strong battle at the front here between Audi and Panos. That's that man, Alan McNish. He wants to take the driver's title. But rest assured, he wants outright victory. Shortly, he's going to be handing over to Ronaldo Capello. We saw him getting ready in the pits a little bit earlier. And Ronaldo Capello is going to be pushing hard. He wants an outright victory. Mathematically, he's the only one who can challenge McNish for the championship, though unlikely, because every time that car scores points, it keeps the gap between Ronaldo Capello and Alan McNish. And right now, that gap is 10 points. The difference between those two drivers driving the same car throughout the year is the amount of fastest laps, amount of laps led, that extra points that McNish has built up. So that's how it works. If the two drivers driving the same car get victory or whatever place they get, of course they equally share the same number of points. However, there are 3 bonus points on offer in every race. The driver who gets the fastest lap overall in the prototype class will get an extra point. The driver who leads the most number of laps will get an extra point. And if any driver leads at least 1 lap, they will get an extra point. So that extra point can be given out to a number of different drivers in the same class. The point for leading a lap. But if you get the fastest lap and you lead the most number of laps, then you will get 2 extra points. And after the championship so far, Alan McNish has 10 more of those bonus points than Ronaldo Capello. So unless Ronaldo Capello drives a car that finishes ahead of Alan McNish, which isn't likely because they're always driving the same car, then McNish is going to take the driver's title. As we look at the number 36 Reynard, which looks like it has Stefan Johansson at the wheel, sharing that car with the English driver Guy Smith. As we get our first look at that machine, Magnussen, McNish, Leto, Johansson there in 6th place, driving that car. But it's close at the front, only 3.5 seconds between the Panos and the Brabham. Excuse me, the Brabham, the Panos and the Audi. That's the leading Audi, and look at that. Alan McNish is closing down. Absolute hammer down before these two drivers they're gonna hand over to their two teammates. Jan Magnussen will be handing over a lead to David Brabham. Talk about pressure. Alan McNish will be handing over a 2nd place car to Ronaldo Capello, or Willie. Well, he's closing down now. It's not just about pure pace, it's about traffic. Both of these drivers very experienced, both of them have just the right amount of aggressiveness in traffic and the right amount of patience and caution. So difficult to be cautious and patient in traffic and at the same time be decisive, and that's so important. And most of the problems we see when cars come together in traffic is indecisiveness. But these guys are the experts, let me tell you. Want to squeeze through a bit of racing traffic a bit fast, you want one of these two behind the wheel for you. Right now, McNish, fastest lap time. His last lap, couple of seconds faster than the Panos. Doesn't seem to have closed down visually, just a little bit at a time. Oh, now look at this, the Panos caught in behind a slower machine. And this is absolutely what they don't want. Now really, look at that, McNish has caught right in behind the slipstream of the Panos. Watch this car as McNish takes the wider line as they come down into turns number 1 and 2. Oh, and he's trying so hard. Alan McNish locks up a wheel going into turns 1 and 2. Now back onto acceleration again. They're on the flat inside section, long turn 3 and turn 4, all into one as they go down the back straight up to 170 miles an hour. Tight left-hander. Now this is where the traffic will cause some problems. 2nd gear left-hander all through this infield section. Turn 6 left-hander, turn 7 right-hander. Accelerating all the way through here, around the outside of this push, and now the double right-hander, turn 8 and turn 9, 2nd gear into the first part. Sliding the car as they go through there, turn number 9. Now looks like the Panos has no traffic problems here, down this short straight. Fast right-hander. 150 miles an hour on the approach, so that having to change gears as they go through turn number 10, then hard on the brakes into turn number 11. As we look at the number 5 GT Porsche, part of the championship winning Dick Barber outfit. Going in for pit service, that is the 2nd place of the 2 Dick Barber cars. Dirk Muller, Lucas Luhr machine. So as it gets fresh rubber on that car. Gets Dick Barber surface. Lucas Luhr hands that car over to Dirk Muller. Look at how close it is here, Panos and Audi. And they get him behind. This is a fast prototype machine. That's the Didier de Rodriguez Mimo Schiazzarella car. Not as fast as the cars behind it. What's it going to be like in traffic? Is he going to move over and let them come through? The Olive Garden car not running right at the front. But he's not going to make things extremely easy, as it seems, as they go through turn number 11. That tight left-hander. Accelerating away then, through turn 12 and 13, back onto the fastest section of the track, and we've got 2 cars off on the outside. Oh no, it's 1 car, excuse me. Looked like 2 cars maybe come together. And that is the number 3 Corvette. Well, been slipping down. That's the Ron Fellows, Andy Pilgrim. Corvette won twice this year, breaking the domination of the Vipers. And that is a British interest again. That's Andy Pilgrim. Driver who makes his home in Florida now, had a very successful career I've told you about before, in sports car racing in the United States, has a little bit of a problem driving that Corvette just momentarily. But nice to see a British driver doing well in the United States as a professional racing driver. Even though for that moment, Andy Pilgrim looked like he was heading up towards the wall. Did he touch it? No. Oh, it looks like he just managed to stay away from the wall. Lucky he went off really as early as he did. A few cones flying around the place. And look at this. This is a battle at the front. Oh, and that's a lockup again. I think that was a replay, was it, of the previous lockup? Alan McNish, yes, it was. Pushing and pushing and pushing. 1 hour and 35 minutes of racing gone. 1 hour and 10 minutes just under of racing left. Excuse me, 1 hour. Yes, 1 hour and 10 minutes left of racing. Magnussen leading, McNish, Leto, Biela, Aberline, Johansson. And that is the distance. You can see it there. That's the gap between the leading Panos and the second place Audi, and that is the traffic problem they incur as they come up on one of the fastest of the... Oh, and this is a machine. Oh, and that number 3 car off again. Oh, and this time, I'm afraid he will not be continuing on. Well, you must assume there's some kind of mechanical problem prior to that accident with that car, because the car went off before. We saw that. Seemed to have a spin as it went up onto the banking, or was just about to go up onto the banking. It's had a spin again, and this time it's made contact with something pretty seriously, and I don't think he's going to be going anymore. Andy Pilgrim has made that car undrivable. Now it looks like it was possibly a tire blowout. Unlikely that that car would have burst the tire. Well, it could have done after the accident, but looks like perhaps that tire went, exploded, caused the driver to lose control. Yeah, absolutely, and exploded the bodywork around the right rear of that car. So very, very bad luck for the number 3 GTS Corvette. Twice winners this year in the American Le Mans Series. Winning in Texas. Didn't enter the next round in Portland. Came back and won the very prestigious Petit Le Mans. Taking a win again. 2 wins in 2 runs. Came back in Laguna Seca. Didn't actually take the win, but 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. They come here to Las Vegas. And it looks like the challenge of the number 3 car, at least, is over, and that's a full course yellow, folks. So all the work that Jan Magnussen was doing to stay ahead of the Audi is down to nothing due to a full course yellow. Pits are closed at the moment, though. That's the way the rules play it. They will not allow yet anybody to come down pit road. So it looks like, more than likely, that was a burst tire that caused that car to go off, and actually may not have made contact with anything. It looks like perhaps the damage was purely as a result of that tire exploding. And of course the speeds they're running, and it lets go, bang. Let go in a big way as we look at the corner workers enjoying a much earned break, a rest from full speed action, as we have a full course yellow. Now this of course brings with it all the problems associated with racing cars that are running very, very fast at high speed, and they need a lot of the air running through their radiators to keep the cars at a good racing working temperature. Even though the temperature here isn't very high, as we would expect it could be in Las Vegas, cars running slowly do not like it, these type of cars. Then we may have all kinds of problems with brakes, driver concentration, engine temperatures. And now Alan McNish takes a second place car and hands it over to teammate Ronaldo Capello. Bring it home for me, buddy. Now he's always cool and calm when he gets out of the machine, Alan McNish. He's only a little guy, very, very fit indeed, but never seems to have a sweat on. course, we'll get a picture of him now and it'll be soaking wet to prove me wrong. But he seems extremely fit, very composed. And Ronaldo Capello, super quick. A little more of a Latin temperament style of driver, looks a little more aggressive sometimes. And sometimes when he gets out of the car at the end, looks like he's worked a little bit harder. And look at this. Audi. BMW, a little look across there. From the number 42 BMW. Tucked in behind is the Panos. So it's Jan Magnussen hands over to David Brabham. JJ Leto hands over to Jörg Muller. Frank Biela hands over to this man, Emanuele Pirro. Oh, I like it when they put the name on the side of the helmet, so I'm 100% sure who it is driving. Hey, I told you. I've just been driving a racing car at 100 million miles an hour and risking my life, and I'm pretty cool about it. That's Alan McNish, ready for an interview. We'll see if we can get it. I'm afraid we may not be able to. Out of situation beyond our control, that's the phrase. Lights are on now. We look at some of the lower GTS machines. 36 Renault going through there. Number 0 Olive Garden Raffinelli machine. Second of the two Panos cars. Still full course yellow, all that debris on the track caused by the tire explosion of the Corvette machine. But we're looking to go back to full speed racing. Pit stops have just happened under full course yellow. Drivers are warming their tires up, keeping the heat in the carcass of that tire. So important that racing slicks are kept at a working temperature. Difficult to describe the sensation of driving slick shod cars when the tires are cold, but a huge difference between when the tires are at a working temperature and when they go cold. And that is why you see the drivers weaving to make sure they keep heat in the cars. So the drivers having to keep the heat in the tires, because the tires will get, the whole car will get slippery. Everything will become much more difficult if they lose the heat in those tires. Well, after the pit stop situation, it is a change of leader. Back at the front, Alan McNish, Ronaldo Capello.
He pulled away in the first few laps very well. After that, he caught him up, and I managed to overtake him when he got bolted coming onto the banking. I pulled in front. I've got no grievance towards it at all. I think it was just a case of we're both fighting for position, and you know, he maybe misjudged his braking a little bit right behind my car. A bit of damage to the diffuser on the top of the car. Yeah, certainly it's handling as well now as it was at the beginning. I've lost some rear grip, especially in the slow corners and leading onto the banking, which made it a bit too interesting at times. But you know, the car's not too bad. We're still able to fight a little bit, and we'll see what happens now at the end of the car. They're definitely going to be there quite well this race for that later.
Well, I hope you could hear that at home, folks. That's a bit of sound there. Interview with Alan McNish, commenting on the struggle to get by the Panos, which he eventually did. And now it is I'm sorry, hesitating there to try if we get the sound from the pit lane to let you hear the information from the drivers. But notably, Alan McNish saying the car is handling as well now as it was at the beginning, and that's perhaps bad news for everybody else. He said losing a little bit of rear end grip coming out of the slower corners onto the banking, which made life a little too interesting. So obviously a little bit squirrely at the back, but he handled that okay, and he's got that Audi into the lead. Second place now is the BMW. So those guys really, really battling hard and battling strong to keep their drivers' championship hopes alive. JJ Leto and Jörg Müller. But as we have a wide view of the hills of Las Vegas, Nevada, we have just under one lap before we go full green racing again here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The penultimate round of the American Le Mans Series Championship. Prototype action, GTS action, and GT racing. And still a long way to go and plenty of action, I promise you. It's been really, really nip and tuck stuff. Audi looked like, again, they were the fastest team driver combination. But Panos led the race, proving to be right in the hunt. Took a lot of hard effort for Alan McNish to get his car in the lead. Handed it over to Ronaldo Capello. Jörg Müller takes over from JJ Leto in second place. David Brabham got some work to do to get back in the front after being taking over from Jan Magnussen. As we look at the scoring tower, the weather's been threatening. Information we had from local weather people was that we possibly could have some rain. We go back to green racing at Las Vegas. And that is a BMW putting a pass down on the inside of the Audi. Oh, and this is BMW prototype machine. Emanuele Pero. No, this is the number 43 car, Jean-Marc Goudon at the wheel. And that's the number 1 Panos. David Brabham now wants to get back in the lead of this race. Absolutely no doubt. Jan Magnussen led so much of it. Squeezed up the inside of Didier de Rodriguez and the Raffinelli machine. Look at this. This is close sports car racing. GT and GTS cars doing everything they can to stay out of the way, but they do have their own race. Oh, look at this. That was a Panos going off. Oh, we've got machines everywhere. We've got a BMW and Audi. That's the leading Audi. Number 77 has gone off. Oh, and look at the front of it. That's the number 36 Johansson machine. Is it? The number 2 Panos. Oh, no, that is the race over for the number 2 Panos. Wow, such a shame just at the start of this race. And that really is an example there of perhaps the downside of sports car racing in multi-classes. And the Panos crew, Dave Price there, Englishman who heads up that crew, looking just a little bit despondent. And well, as well he should be, because not only is the number 2 car obviously has damage that means it can't continue. The number 1 has lost its rear wing. So David Brabham comes in there. Can they get that? Can they put a rear wing onto that machine and get it going? Well, I don't think it's a case of just unbolting one and bolting another. It's a fundamentally major structure on the back end of that car. And there, Guy Smith and Stefan Johansson. I think Guy Smith just taking over in that machine. Number 36, Reynard. Yes, it is Guy Smith at the wheel. They're running in 7th place. Really, really challenging well against right on the pace of the factory BMWs, which is an awesome performance. Not there with the Panos and the Audi, but again, getting caught in some traffic. But here we take a look at what's going on here, and it looks like, oh, I don't know, it was the Panos chopping across in front of the number 42. Difficult to say who caused that, but then the 77 Audi getting hit right up the back by the Panos, so getting caught in a Panos sandwich. Was it? Or it could have been the Reynard actually hitting the back of the number 77 Audi. No matter what, for the number 2 Panos, for Hiroki Kato. How many times have we seen this picture this year? Hiroki Kato taking over from Johnny O'Connell and ending up with a permanently damaged race car at the end of it. Here we take a look at the Olive Garden car. Look on the left-hand side of the picture. We've got the Panos, BMW, and Audi. It looks like the Panos and the BMW got together. Yes, it was. Oh, they just touched, slowed down the 42 BMW, then gets hit up the back by the second of the two Panos, I think it is, and then the 30 and the 78. No, it's the number 1 Panos. Yeah, the number 1 Panos that hit the back of Alan McNish. Now, who's come out of this? Well, not the kind of action we really want to see. 77 car looks like it's relatively undamaged. Certainly haven't seen it coming into pits. But a lot of our front-running drivers sustaining problems and damage. Well, we're going to go for a break. You don't want to miss any of this. Stick around and join us for more ALMS from Las Vegas. Welcome back. This is live pictures of Las Vegas ALMS round number 11 of 12. And it's all happening here. We promised you a little bit of action, and we certainly seem to have it. Well, we've got an Audi in the lead. We had an Audi in the lead before, but it was the number 77 car. Now it's the number 78 machine, driven by Emanuele Pirro. Second place is the second of the Audis, Alan McNish and Ronaldo Capello. Capello behind the wheel, having taken over from the Scotsman. And in third place, the number 43 BMW of Jean-Marc Gounon and Bill Aberlane. Now, interestingly, the information we have is Gounon started in that car, handed over to Aberlane, but after an incident out on the track where they made a final pit stop, they swapped back over to Jean-Marc Gounon. Well, we are now under full course yellow. Just to bring you up to date, it's because of the number 28 machine, the Conrad Motorsport Lola B2K, that has gone off, and that has brought out a second full course yellow. And that is the second full course yellow in a short distance, because just after we had an earlier full course yellow, all the front running cars came into the pit lane. It was the number 1 Panos that was challenging at the front with the number 77 Audi into the infield section, the notorious turn number 8, turn number 9 section. And both of the Panos sustained some serious damage, as the number 42 BMW, the 1 and 2 Panos, the 77 and the 78 Audi all got involved in bumping and boring. And now that really has changed the character of the race and taken Panos essentially out of the frame, it seems. And really, really disastrous for them. They did so much of the early front running. And we are now taking a look at a wide shot coming through that section, turn number 8 and turn number 9. Well, we're on board with the number 43 car driven by Jean-Marc Gounon, and we are going to take the restart with him. Okay, just about to go to green. They come through turns number 10 and 11. This is where we've seen a lot of the action. This will bring them as they come through the tight left-hander at turn number 11. You can see the headlights of the prototype BMW onto the back of the Porsche GT car just ahead. 2 Porsche GTs as they come up onto the banking now as he squeezes by on the outside. Oh, and this is the traffic problems we have as we go to green for final racing at Las Vegas. 2 hours and 13 minutes gone. Just under half an hour left of racing as they go through the fast banking into tight turns number 1 and 2. We've seen a lot of action there. We look at the back of this GT Porsche where it has sustained some kind of contact, as the prototype cars, as we're used to seeing, really have to work hard to squeeze past the GT traffic as they battle with each other. Difference in the pace of these cars means consistent lapping. Prototype cars consistently passing GT and GTS cars, and of course those cars consistently being lapped. And I've talked about this before, the prototype cars really, challenging for outright victory, get so frustrated when they are slowed up by the GT cars. But to the GT and the GT drivers, their race is just important, and arguably they have a more difficult job, having to watch ahead and concentrate on driving a very, very difficult race car very fast and keep an eye on the mirror. And so sometimes the prototype drivers take no prisoners as they come up on the GT cars. But as I reported to you earlier, as we're on board with Jean-Marc Gounon from Laguna Seca, where there was a lot of contact in traffic. 3 drivers, no less than 3, 2 prototype drivers amongst those 3 were fined for contact with other cars. So it looks like the organizers and the officials are clearly placing the onus of getting by cleanly on the prototype drivers. There we are, a little wave out the window. You just saw that on the right-hand side of your screen. Of course, they can't do that out the other side, but now that is a very, very difficult job. You look at that Viper just up ahead. He's enclosed down in a very, very low cockpit, big, huge bonnet with the front engine Viper out in front of him. Not much of a rear view mirror, not much of a rear window that he can see out of. He's got little mirrors shaking up and down like crazy. Not like a mirror in your normal car. These things are vibrating. They can barely see what's going on sometimes at the back of the door mirrors anyway. This is the number 7 BMW. Winning this year, the BMW, but not challenging strongly here in Vegas. Doesn't seem to have the pace of the Porsche this time around. And so difficult for the GT driver is my point after all of that, to stay out of trouble and enjoy their own race. Emanuele Pirro, after the problems of the first of the 2 restarts we've just seen, has gone into the lead of this race. Now, I doubt there will be team orders in the Audi camp. Emanuele Pirro, oh, it looks like we maybe, is he slowing down? No. Coming into turn number 10, through turn 11, tight left-hander, turn 11 here, then accelerating on to turn number 12. Well, those are the ones at the front, 18-second gap between the 2 Audis. And I was saying I doubt there's going to be any team orders, because from where he stands right now, the Capello McNish machine will give Alan McNish the Drivers' Championship in prototype. Wow, 1 lap down now, the 43 BMW. Jean-Marc Gounon back at the wheel of that machine. They hand it over to the American driver, Bill Auberlane. But in an unscheduled pit stop due to yellow flag, they came in for final service for that BMW and decided to put Jean-Marc Gounon back in the car for the final 30 minutes of the race. So I don't know what Bill Auberlane will have to say about that. Maybe he was suffering physically, maybe he had some kind of injury, physical problem that he was struggling in the car. They needed to hand back to Gounon. And if it's a case of just wanting to put Gounon back in the car for the last dash of the race, that probably doesn't reflect too well on the American driver, Bill Auberlane. Fast right-hander, that is, through turn number 10. Really tricky section of the track that driver's having to brake and turn through that corner and change gear. Here's a familiar helmet. Hans Stuck at the wheel. The Ebullient German driver, or son of a famous racing driver. Here we are now, we're on board with that was a BMW, this is the Porsche, the 2 German marks battling it out. This is the number 5 Dick Barber Porsche. Now that car currently running in 3rd place, the number 5 machine, 3rd place in GT. Actually, here I am saying the BMWs aren't challenging, and I correct myself because it's a Porsche leading, but it's a BMW. Hans Stuck 2nd, then Luren Muller. Well, as we get towards the conclusion of racing, it's been pretty action-packed here in Las Vegas for round 11 of the American Le Mans Series. It's a familiar story with Audi leading. It's not the car we expected, perhaps, after Alan McNish and Ronaldo Capello took the lead away from Panos. As we've seen them do before, Panos challenged, and it looked like we were really heading for a good showing from the Panos team. The number 1 car driven by Jan Magnussen and David Brabham. Just in the final pit stops, the 77 Audi managed to get in the lead, but then it was all changed as they went from yellow flag running to green running. Big accident, multiple car kind of semi pile up around the infield section, involves 77 Audi, the number 36 Reynard, and very seriously the number 1 and number 2 Panos as well. I say serious, those, oh, look at the 78 Audi getting up the inside of that portion. In terms of the results of the race, no driver injuries, no serious problems in that respect. And look at this. Well, that number 1 Panos is back out there. And that's remarkable considering the damage it had, that it's running now in 6th place. Whole wing was taken off the back of that car. Magnussen had worked so hard to keep it at the front, handed it over to Brabham. Now Brabham is down a few places and a number of laps down. There we are, another picture here, number 43 BMW passing around the outside as they go onto the bank section of the track. Texas Motor Speedway really is a fantastic facility, over 1,600 acre site here at Texas Motor Speedway. And just get a load of what they have here in terms of a racing facility. 1.5 mile super speedway where they run NASCAR, Indy Lights racing. 2.25 mile FIA sanctioned road course. That's what we're looking at now on board with Emanuele Pirro. Got a 4,000 foot drag racing strip. They've got paved and dirt short tracks, something you won't see too much of in Europe, but very, very popular out in the United States. Short track racing, both paved and dirt tracks. They have a motocross circuit here. They have a stadium truck racing facility, go-kart and even legend car circuit. And if that's not enough, they've got racing schools from Richard Petty, Derek Daly. You can even drive an Indy car around here, something called Kart 101, Freddie Spencer Motorcycle Racing School. And that's a little bit about what the Las Vegas Motor Speedway is all about. It really is a fantastic facility. Emanuele Pirro is driving around now the 2.25 mile road course. And we're not seeing night racing here, of course, but they have a very, very impressive lighting facility at Las Vegas when you see the racing at night. But join us for more action from Las Vegas right after this. 45-minute race, 20 minutes left to go, and started to drizzle in Las Vegas. Don't know if it's gonna last. We can't see anything on the camera screen. It's just very, very light. Raindrop just there, kind of bottom of your screen. But the teams are preparing wet weather tires, and forecast, a slight chance of rain forecast. Well, we've got blue patches there, and actually the sky seems to have brightened up a little bit, but I tell you, Emanuele Pirro leads this race. Just see a little bit of moisture on the camera lens as it cleans itself. I can tell you the IndyCar Champ Car Series race at Fontana in California has been stopped. Fontana in California has been stopped due to very, very wet weather, and we're not that far away from the Californian coast here in Nevada. Weather can move fast in this part of the world. And again, unfortunately, we cannot bring you some of the pit information that we'd like to from time to time. I do apologize about that. I'll do my best to stay quiet if we get any information from pit lane. As we see one of our pit reporters there talking about the possibility of rain tires. Anybody watched a little bit of motor racing knew that those were rain tires there. Difference between the rain tires and the slicks. Grooves cut in there to channel away the moisture and the rain, but more importantly than that, when it becomes slightly damp, they don't need to actually move any water out of the way. They just enable the tires to get up to a working temperature. And then the wet weather tires will come into their own. But right now it looks like the rain perhaps holding off. And that's the way I'm sure Emanuele Pirro would like it. He wants to finish this race having taken over that car from Frank Biela. A little bit fortunate really for the 78 Audi, running very much behind the number 77 machine prior to that incident after the full course yellow affected the Panos and the BMWs. We're on board now with the Viper, looking to take another win in GTS, perhaps. This is the number 92 machine, which is in second place in GTS behind its team car, the number 91. No, this is situation normal. And I'm afraid the challenge from Corvette just hasn't happened. We saw the number 3 car earlier in the race suffering a tire blowout spectacularly while British driver Andy Pilgrim was at the wheel. We take a look at the GTS perspective, and now we take a look at the second place, number 5 GT machine. Lucas Luhr, Dirk Muller car, currently running second in the GT class behind its fellow team members, the Dick Barber machine, number 51 of Sasha Malton and Bob Wallach. Again, I ask you to note the difference between the work rate of the GT drivers here. Much more steering wheel movement, gear change a little more complicated. They have to move it across the gate. Hey, it's not easy to drive a prototype car, but it's just a different experience for the GT cars. As you see, that BMW prototype flying by. Now we see him hard on the brakes, down 3 gears, slotting in behind this GTS machine, the Viper. Now looking to get a little bit of a tow, working hard at the wheel there as the car wants to break traction as they go up onto the banking. And the movement transition from the flat section of the track up onto the banking is very dramatic. You can see it time after time. They run on the inside lower apron of the track and then bang up onto the, look at the closing speed there. They go bang up onto the bank section of the track. Pirro staying down low. So when they go up onto the banking and then down off the banking, it really does upset the balance of the car. And as you can just see it there, the sparks coming off the cars. Emanuele Pirro goes through turns 1 and 2, coming off the banking. Approach speed on that section of the banking in the region of 190 miles an hour. And I tell you, if we do get anything more than a slight drizzle, it is going to be, oh, and that's a GT car. Oh, just spinning through turn number 5. Couldn't see which one that was, but luckily, oh, not getting in the way of the Audi, but the Olive Garden Raffinelli Lola bearing down on it very, very quickly. And Emanuele Pirro getting into the groove now in this Audi, leading this race. The race has really come back to this pairing. Well, I was telling you a little bit earlier about the Las Vegas Motor Speedway Complex, just giving you a few details of some of those boring kind of statistics, just let you know what kind of facility it is at Las Vegas. Worth a visit if you ever get out that way. Great, great facility. Owned by Speedway Motorsports, which is a company owned by the gentleman by the name of Bruton Smith. And not only does that company own Las Vegas Motor Speedway, also owns Atlanta Motor Speedway, Bristol, the Lowe's Motor Speedway out in Charlotte, Sears Point Raceway, and Texas Motor Speedway. So, Speedway Motorsports, a major player in motorsport circuits out in the United States. As we're on board with David Donahue and the Viper. Tucked down inside that machine, tightens up his seat belts. And he takes over in that machine from the elder of the 2 drivers, Tommy Archer. Running in second place in GTS. Great look in the mirrors there. Here where our camera's positioned, heads out onto the banking. Now this is a critical time for a driver, fresh out of the pits. Tires a little bit cold. The driver, just a little bit cold. Can't see where it's going because the sun's shining in his eyes. Or is that our camera? I think it is. Not much sunshine here in Las Vegas. But David Donahue, consistent driver this year for Viper. Right now, playing the support role to the number 91 machine. Sharing that car with Tommy Archer. having won this year, but really playing second fiddle to Olivier Beretta and Carl Benlinger and the number 91 machine, who dominated the championship. But this is a team game. And after Benlinger and Beretta got their lead in the championship early on, it really became the Archer-Donahue crew to support them. And right now, right in behind, is the race leader, number 78, Frank Biela. Oh, and he just squeezes up the inside, and we see staying out wide David Donahue. Look at the difference in line there. He bangs up onto the banking, slides down in onto the flat part of the track, up onto the banking again, and then down onto the flatter section of the track. So it really is an unusual section there where they go around from turn 11 all the way around to turn number 1 and 2, where they can choose to stay on the inside apron of the track or go up onto the banking. The tire engineers were saying to us earlier that it's a different type of tire that they run here. They do at places like Charlotte, where they run much more up on the banking and they work the right-hand side tires of the car much harder than they do here in Las Vegas, where it's much more the kind of compound they use here, more like a normal road course, so they don't really have to set the cars up in terms of tires for extensive high-speed work on the banking. They don't work the car so hard on the banking, although they do get up to, in the prototype class, in the region of 190 miles an hour. There you are. Slides by a BMW, tucks in behind momentarily the Porsche, and flies by. There, that car is working hard, but challenge for the lead. The number 1 Pano is now 6 laps down with David Brabham at the wheel in 6th place, but unfortunately 6 laps down. The only 2 cars on the lead lap are the 2 Audis. Hero and Biela, car leading from the McNish Capello machine. Bad luck for Ronaldo Capello. It really was. He wants to take a victory. Of course, the way things are right now, McNish is going to take the Drivers' Championship. But Ronaldo Capello had a chance to get another outright race win, and he really wanted to do that. They were in a strong position, not commanding, in a strong position at the lead of the race, and then everything went awry. But 2nd place, not too bad. There we are. That's Didier de Radiguez, the wheel of that, as the graphic tells us. Mimo Schiattarella starting in that car as usual. Radiguez doing the 2nd stint. Well, the concluding moments of the race here in Las Vegas. Just under 10 minutes of racing to go. We're on board with Emanuele Pirro, who's leading this race for Audi in the number 78 machine. 2nd place, he can... Oh, and he just gets up the inside of that Viper. Emanuele Pirro leading this race. I tell you, you do not want to move away from your TV set, because just when we thought Panos had the lead, when we thought McNish and the Audi crew were going to walk away at the beginning of the race, they didn't. Panos took up the challenge. BMW have been more competitive at times than we thought they were going to be. The 77 car was leading. Now it's the 78, and if we get more close moments like that, it could go back to the 78 or anybody else in the last few moments of this race. Well, on board with Emanuele Pirro and Audi, leading this race with just a few moments to go. Well, Alan McNish had a chance to clinch the championship right here in Las Vegas. Well, right now, the way things currently stand, there is still a mathematical possibility that Ronaldo Capello could take the championship when they go to Adelaide for the final round in Australia. Also, Audi teammates Emanuele Pirro and Frank Biela are in with a chance. So down to the wire, even in the prototype class. Audi have already taken the manufacturer's title, but the driver's series will go down to the wire. Well, that's the way we like to see it. And it's going to be a fantastic race down there in Adelaide, using the full Grand Prix circuit. The full circuit that they used for the Grand Prix when it was held there. The race of 1,000 years on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2000. Promises to be something worth watching. 123 laps completed. Audi are leading this race. Audi are second. Jean-Marc Gounon back behind the wheel of the BMW is in third place, one lap down. The BMW drivers had a chance. JJ Leto and Jörg Muller had a chance to keep their driver championship hopes alive. That is not going to happen. It's all down to the Audi drivers for the drivers championship here in Las Vegas and when we move to Adelaide. Five minutes left to run here in Las Vegas. The possibility of rain was there momentarily, but it seems to have gone away, thankfully. We've had enough incidents in the race. I don't think a wet track would have done anybody any favors. Would have been very interesting indeed, but perhaps not the kind of action we want any more of. As we look at the number 23 machine, the Alex Job Racing entry, twice a winner this year, comes down pit road. Leaders in GT right now, the number 51 car, Sasha Masson and Bob Wallach. Second place, their Dick Barber teammates, Dirk Muller and Lucas Luhr. So final splash and dash here for the slightly damaged Alex Job entry. Well, the Alex Job crew have challenged the Dick Barber teams very, very strongly this year. Both, of course, running the Porsches. But it looks like it's all about Dick Barber Racing here in Vegas. As the number 23 machine goes back out into competition. Bruno Lambert and Randy Pope's car. But doing his best to keep his concentration is Emanuele Pirro. Frank Biela was involved in getting that car to the front. He drove that car and kept it right at the front of this race, not leading, but right up in there, so that if anything went wrong, he could take advantage of it. He wasn't able to, but he kept the car right up there. As soon as Emanuele Pirro got into the machine, there was an incident ahead, and he managed to stay out of trouble and slot that car in the lead. Great piece of driving by the Italian. And now he's reaping the reward as he comes down into turn number 5, braking hard, tight left-hander here, second gear. And this section here, from here round to turn number 11, is where we've seen so much action. Turn 6, third gear, turn 7, fourth gear. On the brakes, double right-hander, turn 8, then turn 9. This is where we saw the incident earlier, accelerating out of turn 9, right up against the retaining wall on the left-hand side, up to 150 miles an hour. Turn in and brake and change down into third gear through turn number 10. Tight, tight, tight. First gear, turn number 11, squeezing the power on, struggling for grip, and then back out in the fast sections of the track, staying on the flat part of the apron initially. Car really working up speed, top speed of 190 miles an hour. Driver can stay tight on the inside or go up and use the banking. As we see the GT car getting out of the way, just in the top of our picture. Piero up on the banking, down again through turns number 1 and 2. Second gear, third gear. Again, fast section of the track here through third and fourth. Turn number 3 and 4. Oh, and they come back out onto turn number 5. Shortly on the outside of the track, then back down here through the left-hander again. So Emanuele Piero keeping everything together. The old saying, to finish first you got to finish. And for Panos, they look to be running so strong. It all went horribly wrong for them in a few seconds. Both cars 1 and 2 were involved in the same incident, sustained heavy damage, and that put them out of contention in this race. All right, now Emanuele Piero's heart every time he comes up on one of these slower GT cars is going to miss a beat. Squeezes up the inside, pretty easy move there. Frank Biela pacing back and forth, nothing he can do now. And it's the white flag. And in the US, that means the final lap. Just one more circuit, one more 2.24-mile tour for Emanuele Piero. Now, the information we've just had is that the Audi team say that this car is absolutely to the limit on fuel. It's running on fumes, and that they are not 100% sure it can finish. Well, that's the information we have. He looks to be running relatively steadily here. Of course, only his fellow team car, McNish Capello machine, on the same lap. But I tell you what, if he runs out of fuel, this would be heartbreaking. Running on fumes. The pit crew are absolutely beside themselves with worry. That's the information we've received. They're very tight on fuel. Just coming around, Emanuele Piero. Turn number 11, 12. It looks like he could coast to victory. Completing 128 laps of racing, Emanuele Piero takes victory for Audi. Frank Biela breathes a sigh of relief. He looks a relieved man as opposed to an ecstatic one. But great piece of driving by the German and Italian driver pairing. Another victory for Emanuele Piero and Frank Biela. Well, the last part of the championship has been mostly about Alan McNish and Rinaldo Capello. Back in Texas, though, Biela and Piero took a victory. 3 more races on the trot. It was all about McNish Capello. Now it's back to Biela and Piero. We took a look at the GTS winner. This is the GT winner. Number 51. There we are. We take a look at the final results. Prototype winners, Emanuele Piero and Frank Biela. GTS winners, Olivier Beretta and Carl Wendlinger. Teammates right in behind them, David Donahue and Tommy Archer. So familiar winners in round 11 of the American Le Mans Series. And our GT winners, Bob Wallach and Sasha Masson, taking victory for Dick Barber Racing to consolidate their position, winning the championship for Porsche. Victory then for Audi, driven by Emanuele Piero and Frank Biela. Victory celebrations for the Audi crew. Frank Biela joins Emanuele Piero. Well, we look at the Las Vegas mountains. It's been great racing action. One more round to go.